So, it is announced that the subject of the seminar is play and survival. Are they in necessary contradiction? We're going to examine the subject in the context of Christian, Islamic, Buddhist, Jewish, Hindu, Taoist, and scientific naturalism. Living, it seems to me, is a spontaneous process. The Chinese term for nature is one which means that which is so of itself, that which happens. Very curious, because of our grammar, almost all standard average European languages, we are unable to imagine a process which happens by itself. Every verb must have a noun as its subject, a director, and we think nothing is in order unless someone or something orders it, unless there's somebody in charge. To us, the idea of a process of nature that happens of itself by itself is frightening because there seems to be no authority. And therefore, in the United States, we are in a serious social and political conflict. We think that we ought to be living in a republic, but the great majority of citizens believe that the universe is a monarchy. You cannot be a loyal citizen of the United States unless you believe that a republic is the best form of government. So, we're always seeking a monarch, someone else upon whom to push the responsibility. We won't take it ourselves. We're always complaining that where we are is the result of our past. My mother and father were neurotic, we say, and therefore they made me neurotic. Their fathers and mothers were neurotic and made them neurotic. And so it goes back to Adam and Eve. You remember what happened in the Garden of Eden. God set a trap by saying, "There is that specific tree, and you mustn't eat the fruit of it." If he had really not wanted them to eat the fruit, he wouldn't have said anything about it. By drawing attention to it in this way, it was obvious they were going to eat it. So when he saw Adam looking guilty, he said, "Adam, hast thou eaten of the fruit of the tree whereof I told thee thou shouldst not eat?" And he said, "The woman you gave me, she tempted me, and I did eat." He looked very severely at Eve and said, "Eve, have you eaten of the fruit of the tree whereof I told you, thou shalt not eat?" And she said, "The serpent beguiled me." This isn't written in the Bible, but they winked at each other, because they had planned it long in advance. The universe was not going to be a merely obedient arrangement, where God says, "You shall do thus and so," and you automatically do it. There would be no fun in that, no surprises. So, in the Hebrew theology, God put into the heart of Adam at the creation a thing called the Yetzer Hara, which means the wayward spirit. Just like, when you make a stew, you put some salt in it. You don't want the whole stew to be salt, but just a touch. In creating Adam, God put in just a touch of wickedness so that something surprising and different would happen, something God wouldn't be able to master completely. Now, this is very important. You see, what we're going to talk about mainly is our sense of identity, our sense of alienation, and the complications we put ourselves into by regarding survival as a duty. These all connect together, though you may not see the connection immediately. Imagine yourself in the position of being God, in the literal popular sense of God the Father Almighty. This means you're a male chauvinist pig, in charge of everything. You know all pasts, you know all futures, you're completely in control of the cosmos. You have absolute power, and you are bored to death. So you say to yourself, "Man, get lost. I want a surprise." And here you are. You must admit it. The whole mark of insanity is to know that you're God. That's absolute taboo, not only in the Christian religion, because Jesus got crucified for knowing that, but in all faiths. Christians said, okay, Jesus was God, but let it stop right there. Nobody else. But the gospel was the revelation to us all, which the Hindus knew forever. If Jesus had lived in India, they would have congratulated him for finding out instead of crucifying him. Many people in India, Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramana Maharshi, Krishna himself, Buddha, everybody discovered it. Because it's not an exclusive claim. I alone am that. It's that we all are. As I look into your eyes, I see the universe looking back. So we're in a situation where it's a taboo. We must admit that we know who we are so as to have the thrill, that sort of self-goosing effect of feeling lost, feeling strange, feeling alone, of not belonging. And we say in popular speech that I came into this world. You did nothing of the kind. You came out of it just in the same way as fruit comes out of a tree, the egg from the chicken, the baby from the womb. We are symptomatic of the universe. We are its nerve endings, just as in the retina there are myriads of nerve endings. So all of us are nerve endings of the universe, and there are many of us, so that the universe's point of view of itself will not be prejudiced, but rather many-sided. And so, fascinating things happen. We want to find out what it is that's going on. And we do, with telescopes to find the farthest out things, and with microscopes to find the farthest in things. The more powerful our instruments become, the more the world seems to run away from us. As our telescopes become more powerful, the universe expands, as if it's ourselves running away from ourselves. The more accurate our physics becomes as we investigate the nucleus, the more elusive it becomes. Some years ago we thought we had it, we found a thing called the atom, and that was that. Then quarks turned up, then the electron, then bang, the proton. And then, when we got those, we discovered antimatter, and things kept expanding. The sharper our instruments, the more complex it all got. We're a self-observing system, like the Ouroboros, the snake that bites its own tail and tries to swallow itself to find out what it is. It's like the question, who am I? I'd like to see myself, but look at your own head. Can you see it? It's completely invisible. There's no darkness or blurriness. No way to see it. It's just gone. Most of us assume, as a matter of common sense, that space is nothing unimportant with no energy. But in fact, space is the basis of existence. How could you have stars without space? Stars shine out of space. Something comes out of nothing. In the same way, if you listen to your senses unprejudiced, you'll find sounds coming out of silence. Silence is the origin of sound, just as space is the origin of stars and woman the origin of man. She is the mystery. She is the black. Also, if you listen and pay real attention to what is, you'll find there's no past, no future, and no one listening. You can't hear yourself listening. So, you live in the eternal now. You are that. Now, I started out by saying survival, going on living, is a spontaneous process. Love is the same. But when we were children, our elders told us that it was our duty to love. God said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself." And so, our mothers said to us, "You must have a bowel movement after breakfast. Try to go to sleep. Take that look off your face. Stop pouting. Oh, you're blushing. Pull yourself together. Pay attention." And all these are commands. The basic rule is as follows. You are required to do that which will be acceptable only if you do it voluntarily. That's the formula. You must love me. It's a double bind, and everybody's mixed up because of this. You know the stupid story I often tell. The husband says to the wife, "Darling, do you really love me?" And she says, "Well, I'm trying my best to do so." And nobody wants that answer. They want to be told, "I love you so much I can't help it. I'm your hopeless victim." So we are under compulsion to go on living. You must go on living. It's your duty. We get tired of living and scared of dying, but we go on. Why? Well, I have dependents. I have children to support. But all that does is teach them the same attitude, so they go dragging along to support their children, who in turn learn to go dragging along. And so, I watch in amazement the goings-on of the world. I see all these people commuting, driving like maniacs to get to offices to make money. For what? So they can go on doing the same thing. Very few enjoy it. Sensible people get paid for playing, that's the art of life. But the whole idea of struggling and beating your brains out just to go on living is completely ridiculous. Camus, at the beginning of the myth of Sisyphus, made a sensible statement. The only real deep philosophical question is whether or not to commit suicide. Must you go on? It would be simple to stop. Nobody would be around to regret it in the long run. What is death, after all? You go to sleep and never wake up. That's terrifying for some. The idea of being in the dark forever. But it wouldn't be like that. It wouldn't be like being buried alive. It would be as if you never existed, like before you were born. That's another way of showing how something comes out of nothing. Nothing is the essential prerequisite of something, like back and front, yin and yang. Just as you have an invisible head, your ultimate reality, the ground of your being, is sunyata, as the Buddhists call it, the void. It's space, which is consciousness, which is that in which we live, move, and have our being. The great void. And fortunately, there's no way of knowing what it is. because if we could know what it is, we would be bored out of our minds. The beauty of mystery is that it isn't a problem to be solved. It's a reality to be experienced. We have, at the center of consciousness, a perpetual problem, a perpetual question. We don't know what it is, and life stays interesting because of that. We're always trying to find out, but it won't yield an answer. When you say, "What is reality?" you're always classifying it. It's a paradox. We're always trying to see if it is or if it ain't, if it's male or female, Republican or Democrat, animal, vegetable, or mineral. We try to put it into a class, but what fundamentally is cannot be classified. No one really knows what it is. So, there are many philosophical theories about what reality is. Some say it's material. There's something called stuff. Philosophers are always lecturing about this in front of tables, and they bang on the table, saying, "Now, does this table have reality or not?" When Dr. Johnson heard about Bishop Berkeley's theory that everything is mental, he disproved it by kicking a stone and said, "Surely, to anyone with common sense, this stone is really material and physical." On the other hand, more subtle thinkers say, there is nothing material, it's all a mental construction. The whole world is a phenomenon of consciousness. In Berkeley's time, they didn't know much about neurology, but now we do, and we can restate this position in a much more sophisticated way. The structure of your nervous system determines the world you see. In a world with no eyes, the sun wouldn't be light. Without tactile nerves, fire wouldn't be hot. No muscles, no weight. No soft skin, no hardness. It's all about relationships. Remember the question. When a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a noise? The answer is simple. Noise is a relationship between vibrations in the air and an auditory nervous system. Nuir, nu noise. So, we create the world we experience. From a neurological point of view, we evoke the world we live in. But we're also something the world is doing. You are, from physics point of view, the buzzing of electronic substances and processes, just like everything else. It's all one jazz, but a jazz that's aware of itself through you. So, existence has two aspects, on and off, because all existence is a vibration. If I put my hand on someone's knee at the movies, and I leave it there, she'll notice at first, but then she won't be aware of it. But if I start stroking or patting on and off, she'll realize that I'm paying attention. Everything that happens to us has this pattern, on and off, on and off. When we see things with our eyes, the vibration of light is so fast that the retina doesn't register the off, only the on. So we see things as stable. But with sound, we often hear the on and off, especially in the low registers. Actually, everything that exists physically is a vibration because it consists of positive and negative electricity. Incidentally, if you read the article on electricity in the 14th edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, you'll see that even electricity begins with pure metaphysics. Electricity, it says, is an absolute. We do not know anything else that is like it. A fundamental, since talking pure theology, and so that this is it. You see, the thing it does on and off, male and female. Yeah. Now you see, now don't. We've been brought up to think that, with our 19th century background, this energy which goes on and off is inherently stupid, that it is a mechanical thing. Freud called it libido, Schopenhauer called it blind energy. And so, therefore, we feel that we, as human beings, are flukes. A million monkeys working on a million typewriters for a million years might statistically type the Bible. The thought is that as soon as they got to the end, it would dissolve again into nonsense. But we feel we've been brought up to feel and see that we are flukes. In that sense, we are simply accidents. And that is our inheritance. That is the great problem. And it seems to me completely obvious that we are not accidents. When we say, you're nothing but a little bacterium that crawls around on a ball of rock that circles an unimportant star on the outer fringes of a minor galaxy. Why do people say things like that? I'll tell you what they want to say. I'm tough. I look at the facts, the hard facts. The idea that there's somebody up there who cares is for little old ladies and weaklings. And I think this universe is a bunch of nonsense, so I'm a realistic guy. But that's the message you get from these people. Always look into a person's philosophy to see what he or she is saying about himself.